There's nothing like the first time you win a tournament match in Smash, rank up in a competitive game, shatter your speedrun PB, or play Stairway to Heaven on guitar. Whatever you're trying to improve at, when you hit that first milestone, that first indication of competency, you feel on top of the world. In the beginning, improvement is easy and intuitive. It feels like you're reaching new milestones all the time. But all too often, people eventually find themselves completely stuck and unable to improve. If you've ever been in this situation, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You keep practicing, but you eventually plateau and have no idea how to get any better. The constant improvements you once felt start to disappear. Practice is no longer exciting, it's frustrating. Usually, this issue has one main culprit. And if you were to seek out and implement the solution, you could facilitate a breakthrough and maintain a state of constant improvement. You might even regain that childlike wonder and excitement you felt when you first started. The key to guarantee improvement is the constant pursuit and implementation of feedback. Wait, why have I plateaued? If you always put limits on everything you do, physical or anything else, it will spread into your work and into your life. There are no limits. There are only plateaus. And you must not stay there. You must go beyond them. Bruce Lee. Plateaus occur for a very simple reason. You've stopped implementing or you've run out of useful feedback. Take a game like Valorant, for example. When you're first starting out, you might ask your friends for advice on the basics, but you're probably not spending hours mulling over your own gameplay footage or paying $300 for a coach to hold your hand. The good news is, you don't have to. When you're brand new, the game gives you all the feedback you need. When you shoot the enemy enough times, they die. You see a skull appear on your screen, hear a little blip in your headphones, and see your name in the kill feed. This feels good, and you want to keep doing it. Say you try to use a shotgun against someone halfway across Breeze. You deal almost no damage and get killed. So, you learn not to use shotguns at long range. Next round, you are defending B site with a teammate. All of a sudden, both of you are swarmed as the attackers rush the site. You're overwhelmed by bullets and abilities. There was seemingly nothing you could have done. So, you learn the attackers can rush sites, and that you should be careful of that on defense, or take advantage of it on offense. Next game, you try to rush a site yourself, but Sage uses her wall to stop you. So, you learn that Sage has a wall, and that it can stop a rush right in its tracks. There are countless more examples of this when you're new. You might learn some good smoke spots, some powerful positions to plant the spike. The list goes on. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you likely learn something every time. Learning is a ground-up approach. In the beginning, your skill is such that just about anything you do in the game can provide you with useful feedback. But eventually, you reach a level of competency where the type of feedback you need to improve changes. It's no longer enough to know that smokes exist and are good. You now need to know exactly when and where to put them. It's not enough to just know that you should look out for rushes as a defender. You need to know what abilities you can use to stop them. Now, maybe you're a little further along with Valorant than this, but the point still stands. Without feedback, it's incredibly difficult to know what you need to do to improve, or why you're failing. The obvious feedback received from simply playing the game is no longer helpful, as it's already been instilled into your mind, and is basically instinct at this point. If you don't seek out new sources of feedback, you will stagnate and stop improving. In other words, you'll reach a plateau. Now, if you'd indulge me for a bit, let me try and illustrate the importance of feedback with a couple of real-life stories. Learning from those before us. Intellectual growth should commence at birth and cease only at death. Albert Einstein. A silence befalls the stadium rose as the lights overhead dim the thousands of conversations of the audience below. A subtle fog leaks across the stage, leading way for the star of the evening. As he steps out into the view of the audience, any remaining murmur is immediately drowned out by the booming introduction heard from the announcer above. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dave Chappelle! The announcement is followed by a roar of applause from the crowd as Dave nods and slaps hands with the front row, indulging his audience before he presents his latest line of stand-up material. Being a personality like Dave Chappelle, famous comedian since the 90s, and at this point already loved and revered by audiences before he even tells a joke, he could walk out on stage, sneeze, and the whole crowd would burst into laughter. Chappelle's audience already thinks he's funny, so he doesn't need to try that hard to satisfy his fans. And when surrounded by an audience who will laugh at whatever he has to say, how can he be expected to learn, grow, and improve at the art of comedy? How will he push the envelope? How will he know if his new material is truly funny or not if the only gauge he has is thousands of people who will laugh at anything he says? Now, Chappelle is a true man of his craft. He understands that if he wants to tell funnier jokes, simply performing large venues where everyone already loves him isn't gonna cut it. Chappelle instead will often do pop-ins at smaller comedy clubs across the US, where the crowds are tougher and a little more critical of those who dare try and make them laugh. Stepping outside his comfort zone of guaranteed laughs, Chappelle is free to workshop new material and gauge the feedback from this different type of audience. This process can often be uncomfortable. However, Chappelle will endure this for months at a time, all in the name of furthering himself and his stand-up prowess. The raw, unfiltered, and unbiased feedback from smaller crowds is infinitely more valuable to Chappelle than a comfy routine he's done 100 times and knows will hit. In seeking out new and different feedback, Dave Chappelle can guarantee improvement. Moving away from comedy, let's talk about something way more fun: corporate office jobs. I heard a successful multi-millionaire CEO tell this story one time about an employee he hired named Jessica. Jessica was a little over 30 years old, incredibly intelligent, and an amazing worker. Although Jessica did her job exceptionally well, she had a bit of an attitude. Jessica clearly believed she was far more experienced and competent than everyone else. And although she never actively said she was better than anyone else, it was a vibe you could not ignore. Jessica's personality and attitude was condescending, and her coworkers found it very difficult and a pain to work with her. Months go by and the work environment only gets worse and worse. After several complaints, the CEO decides to sit each employee down, including Jessica, and have them all air out their grievances with Jessica's behavior. It's no exaggeration to say that Jessica was completely floored and taken aback by her coworkers' comments. She had no idea this was the message she was conveying to others, and the criticism began to overwhelm her until she broke down. The CEO expressed to Jessica how valuable she was and what a good employee she had been to the company, and quickly her coworkers jumped in to echo the same comment. Everyone fully believed Jessica was intelligent and a great worker. The only problem they ever had with her was her intimidating attitude and condescending manner of speech. After taking a bit of time to calm down, the first thing Jessica said was, "Why on earth did you guys wait 5 months to tell me this?" Only a few weeks later, the dynamic had completely changed. This one sit down and piece of feedback was all Jessica needed to hear. Jessica had transformed into an amazing team player and now got along great with each of her coworkers. Without this feedback, Jessica was clueless to the distress she was causing. But as soon as she heard it, she was able to turn things around immediately. If you never seek, receive, or implement feedback, it's impossible to change or grow. Without feedback, your mind and skill set might remain in a metaphorical, hostile, and toxic work environment forever. The uncomfortable necessity of feedback. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. Frank Sonnenberg. K. Anders Ericsson is the most well-researched and knowledgeable psychologist in the field of human expertise. And he said that in all his years of studying deliberate practice and skill acquisition, the absolute necessity and importance of feedback is undeniable and impossible to overlook. As we learn, our knowledge grows and our understanding of a skill expands. It's at this point where you develop certain beliefs, ideas, or plans about how things work or should be done. These beliefs and plans are often incomplete, as there's still much for you to learn. But without feedback, it's likely you'll stay stuck in your ways and never see those plans through. Mike Tyson famously said, "Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth." Now, if you've plateaued, then clearly your game plan isn't perfect. But instead of facing the music and realizing your faults, you cower and hide because you don't want to get punched. If improvement is your priority, don't dodge the punches. Allow your current plans or beliefs to get punched in the mouth with feedback. Most people dodge the punches and never seek outside feedback. They hide in their house or their bedroom, separated from the outside world and Mike Tyson. They never get punched in the mouth. They never learn. They never rethink their beliefs. And so, they stop growing. Getting punched in the mouth or hearing honest feedback is uncomfortable. It can be harsh or sometimes discouraging, but it's necessary. Muscles can't get bigger unless you tear them down first. You must allow yourself to be torn down by feedback so you can put yourself back together better than you were before. Conclusion. Feedback can be as simple as checking if your answer on a test was right or wrong while studying for the SATs, or as uncomfortable as the awkward silence after bombing a joke. Regardless, the ability to gain immediate feedback is an essential element to reaching expert levels in one's performance. If you ignore feedback, you're destined for long-term stagnation or even steep decline. To guarantee growth and constantly improve, ensure you are always seeking and implementing feedback. Go get punched in the mouth. Metaphorically, of course. P.S. If you like this video and want to hear me break down the different types of feedback or how to best implement them, let me know in the comments below. Also, hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Also, don't play me like a 3DS. Okay, bye!